welcome to who's come, and I don't know if we'll see as the attendees start to pop in, but thank you very much all the panelists who have been here. My name is Chris Wolf with United Nations Capital Development Fund, UNCDF, and we're hosting together with the Ministry of Communications and Information Technology for Nepal, this webinar on Nepal's Inclusive Digital Economy Scorecard. And so we'll be discussing that today and the issues about bringing Nepal into advancing its digital economy. So I'm going to pause for a minute again to see if some panelists the attendees start showing up. Oh, good. Okay, it does look like there's a lot more people on. So welcome everyone. Let me share my screen so that we can very quickly show everyone the agenda that we'll work through. I'll try to be very quick so we spend most of our time with the panelists. But we'll start off with some opening remarks. Ministry of Communication and Information Technology, UN Resident Coordinator, introduce UNCDF slightly, and then a short presentation on the Inclusive Digital Economy Scorecard. Then we'll go into panelists, and there'll be pairs of them talking about 4 subcomponents of the IDES: policy and regulation, infrastructure, innovations, and skills. Then we'll have time for question and answers. As long as everybody stays to time, we'll have a good 10 minutes for Q&A. But you can type in your questions at any point into the Q&A box, and we'll be monitoring that to decide what questions to bring up for that 10-minute, and then some closing remarks. So to begin with, let me please welcome, I think I saw him pop on the screen, Honorable Secretary of Ministry of Communications and Information Technology, Mr. Hari Prasad Rashal. Thank you very much for co-hosting this, and we welcome you for your opening remarks about the digital economy in Nepal. And it looks like you might be on a phone, so I'm sending you a text to unmute. Okay. Honorable Secretary, if you can hear me and you can unmute, this is your chance to give opening remarks. So if we lost him.
Yes, good morning and good afternoon from Nepal.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Good afternoon. Great. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so you can speak.
Okay,
please, welcome.
Thank you very much. And Miss Sarah Beslow, 90 from UN, Mr. Francis from UNCDF, Mr. Bhuvan Kadel from Nepal Rashtra Bank, and Mr. Miles Pran from NCSL, and all connected participants from Nepal and abroad. And good morning and good afternoon. I would like to express my sincere thanks to UNCDF who are initiating to us and to connecting to us and arranging this very valuable and wonderful program, digital economy in Nepal, with the joint organizing by Ministry of Communication and Information Technology, as well as UNCDF. This is good opportunity to a warm greetings to all of you. Similarly to our friends who are representing the private sector of Nepal, Mr. Mangesh Lal Shrestha from FNCCI, Mr. Vishwas Dhakal from Soft International, and Sujit Shrestha from Standard Chartered Bank. I am delighted to be sharing this platform with all of you. I see that we are also joined here by my friends and colleagues from different ministries and departments of the Subhash Dhakal from Department of National ID and Civil Registration, Mr. Sunil Paudel from National Information Technology Center, and Mr. Min Prasad Aryal from NTA. Once again, a warm greetings to all as well as to all of the distinguished participants of this webinar. I'm very much glad to be here to deliver the opening speech on the analysis of inclusive digital economy scorecard prepared by the United Nations Chapter Development Fund, as well as creating a climate of an inclusive digital economy is an important, as it is complex and diverse indeed. Breaking down barriers to the ambiguous access of technology and information, and lowering the digital skills necessary to actively engage in the economy is imperative to foster a particular participatory economy for the entire nations in these days and age. Therefore, I would like to thank the United Nations Capital Development Fund for not only organizing this webinar, thereby bringing all stakeholders together in one platform for a vivid discourse, but also for the preparation and presentation on the inclusive digital economy scorecard, which I am sure would be an enlightening document highlighting Nepal's achievement, gaps, and priority areas that should be focused upon in the future. With the increasing penetration of fiber networks and mobile internet and the decreasing cost of imputing devices such as smartphones and laptops, connectivity has reached a degree of disconnections that have never witnessed before. Each individual can now connect with anyone else, engage in the meaningful way, conducting commercial or social activities in light of this new development. Digital economy has become a novel reality in Nepal. We have seen the importance of digital payments and explosive proliferation of market platforms in these difficult times of COVID-19 pandemic. Cashless transactions like QR codes, mobile wallets are about to become the new norm of, if not already. Participation in the digital side of the economy is increasing even now as I speak. All in all, things are moving at a pace that we never thought was possible. Therefore, COVID-19, as most of us already know, government of Nepal envisioned the digital Nepal before the pandemic hit us in the nearly early 2020. We prepared and finally adopted the digital Nepal framework in 2019, and it has been our priority even since. Even now, different ministries are working together on the 8 different priorities areas of the digital Nepal framework, like digital foundation, health education, tourism, finance, agriculture, energy, and urban development. However, much needs to be done. The challenge of us, of policymakers, is and our other stakeholders, especially government sector and private sectors working together to achieve our results, remains about how to cooperate and leverage technology to create a more inclusive society. Our emphasis remains on communication and coordination with our development partners, stakeholders, and our constituency to steer the development and digital technology to create a meaningful economic opportunities for all of us. I am glad to see that our development partners are also prioritizing digital development in their own pragmatic areas. Especially this effort on the inclusive digital economy scorecard from the UNCDF is a great help for us, both from the lens of an internal assessment as well as in international benchmark. This inclusive digital economy scorecard has given us the areas to focus for the development of a digital economy. All of these are very relevant to Nepal's context and has provided us from crucial inputs for self-improvement. Importantly, we can see that the scores on digital skills needs a disruptive efforts towards its improvement. We need to build digital ready workforce who are capable of addressing new challenges in the future. We can improve the scores of the IDES in future of all stakeholders working together to achieve our common vision. Government of Nepal is committed to provide services to rural areas and deprived segments of our society. We want all Nepalis to benefit from digital development, and in order to do that, we must bridge the digital divide. This also means developing products and services that are beneficial for farmers, women, youth, migrants, etc. In this regard, I would like to stress the need for stakeholders to work together to bridge the digital divide and request our development partners to join hands with us to implement priorities of the Digital Nepal framework. I would also like to stress on building trust on digital technologies. It will require both public and private sector to join hands. This will lead to improved cyber security and interoperability, which in turn can benefit everybody. I am sure the distinguished panelists will bring up important issues during policy, innovation, and infrastructure and skills sessions, skills of these sessions in webinar. I extend my best wishes for the success of the webinar and look forward to the outcome from these discussions. I hope it will fulfill our need and our hoping to digital Nepal everywhere. We will connect in the globalized society. It will definitely it will benefit to all Nepalese people as well as who are working and connecting from the abroad. We will all join hand. It is joint effort. We have to solve together for the betterment of future. Thank you for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing. Namaste. And let me turn over for more opening remarks to Ms. Sarah Basolo Nyanti, the UN Resident Coordinator. Sarah, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. And it's an honor for me to be a part of this webinar today. Honorable Respected Secretary of Ministry of Communication and Information Technology, Hari Prasad Bashyal, and other respected members of government and private sector, please allow me to stand on the existing protocols in the interest of time. And thank you, Secretary Bashyal, for setting the stage for our webinar today. We're here to talk today about the digital economy, an economy whose importance grows by the day as we, as the world, move into the fourth industrial revolution. I think in this wake of COVID-19, as Secretary Bashyal even mentioned, in this wake of COVID-19 and over the last year and a half, like no other time in our history have we seen the role of digital technologies and platforms become so critical. They've always been known to be critical, but the reality of it and how it has played out in our professional and personal lives, it's just beyond imagination. It is essential that all countries, and not excluding Nepal, that all countries prioritize progress in moving towards a digital economy and adopt digital practices and services to serve its people in this changing world. I'm happy that Nepal has adopted the Nepal Digital Framework in 2019, which guides government in identifying critical initiatives that allow to meet the country's growth potential. And when I speak about the growth potential of Nepal, I do it here and reflect on Nepal's current quest for graduation from being a least developed country to a developing country. It can't happen without that digital transformation. Digital transformation has the potential to significantly enhance productivity and increase prosperity in Nepal. Before the pandemic, the government estimated that the Digital Nepal program was expected to deliver an impact of up to 800 billion Nepali rupees by 2022. This potential has certainly increased with the impact that COVID-19 has had in the digitization of the economy. Digitization, which has already an important target before the pandemic, has therefore moved up in the agenda for the government and the private sector alike, and has become a crucial tool in Nepal's LDC graduation process. I'm glad to note in the next fiscal year's budget, provisions have been made to help higher education students buy one laptop at 1% interest rate and a free SIM card for those 16 years and older. The plans to expand broadband internet to community schools throughout the country is noteworthy. This shows the government of Nepal's commitment towards creating a digital-ready workforce. We now need to ensure that students from rural areas also benefit from these provisions. And we look at our equity agenda in the aspect of leaving no one behind. This is particularly important, including the need to ensure that girls are included. Moving towards a digital economy cannot be done without a conscious, evidence-based effort to ensure that this shift is gender responsive and inclusive. This ensures economic development. There is no development of Nepal if someone is left behind. And so as we look forward to Nepal's growth and development, which we as the United Nations believe in, we support, and we walk hand in hand with the government. As we move towards that, we continue to stress the need for us to ensure at every step of the way, inclusion and gender responsiveness. As a response to the acute lack of reliable data globally in relation to digital inclusion, particularly in relation to historically marginalized groups, UNCDF developed the Inclusive Digital Economy Scorecard. Nepal has been one of the pilot countries for the Scorecard initiative, and we are here today to learn more about the process in Nepal, to dig a little bit deeper and to dive into the results of the assessment and the recommendations going forward. What the scorecard does is that it allows us to track inclusion over time and identify areas of investment and support that are a priority for the country. But for not only just the country as it were in terms of just saying Nepal, but specifically to the national economy. It is critical that economic growth is tracked along these lines of inclusion. And looking at groups such as women, youth, refugees, migrants, micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises, and rural inhabitants. This is incredibly valuable data for the government of Nepal, for civil society, for us as the United Nations, and for development partners, all of us together who work on policies and programs that take forward our collective commitment to ensure that technology and digital economic development benefit everyone across Nepal. That is from the urban areas to the rural areas. We know that how well people can operate digitally and the level of their digital access has a direct impact on their resilience to shocks. For example, UNCDF has been working with Prabhu Management since 2019 to help them digitize the dairy value chain. To understand the impact of dairy digitalization during the pandemic and the future outlook for the agriculture sector, UNCDF analyzed data of the farmers and their cooperatives. And we see a spike of nearly 600% in the usage of digital financial services during COVID-19 lockdown period. The average number of transactions in this period increased from 357 per month to 2,434 transactions, while the average number of users went up by 300%. Nearly 56% of farmers use for the first time these digital financial services. This is just one example. This is an example of the importance of focusing on strengthening the digital economy. That's just agriculture. Imagine all of the sectors of society and what this means for every sector. I thank you for joining us today as we dig deeper into the components of the scorecard and discuss practical examples, topics, and ways forward that will benefit everyone. The UN system hopes to bring people together so that we, along with government, private sector, individual citizens, can push in the same direction to advance our digital economy and reap the benefits to achieve the sustainable development goals while we leave no one behind. I look forward to hearing from the panelists from different sectors on how they are moving the needle for an inclusive digital Nepal. I will not be staying with you for the discussions, but I will be looking to UNCDF to keep me abreast. Let me know what all I can do to advance this agenda and to ensure that we walk side by side with Nepal as you graduate to becoming a developing country. Thank you so much. Over to you, UNCDF.
Thank you very much, Sarah G. We appreciate having you with us and your comments. So now we are going to have a short presentation about what this Inclusive Digital Economy Scorecard is. First, some quick context on UNCDF, or the United Nations Capital Development Fund. We're really a hybrid model that crosses between a development agency and a development finance institution. And so we're working both with the public and private sectors. We've got a whole team here in Nepal that has been focused on IDES, again, that Inclusive Digital Economy Scorecard, I'll call IDES, and it has been working for more than a year as part of 4 pilot countries that are now moving into about 20 countries that are starting to undertake this activity, where we worked with industry experts, government ministries, talking about the digital economy, how inclusive it is, went through internal validation, external validation, and coming to this final report that we will then send to you by the end of this webinar. And so now we'll dive into some of just the high level parts of what is this Inclusive Digital Economy Scorecard. It's made up of 94 data points based on sources that include the World Bank, GSMA, the Telco Association, the Global Competitiveness Unit, UNDP, and many others who helped us put this together, the scorecard, to take those 94 data points around a digital economy and synthesize it down into one score of 47% for Nepal. So if you had to say, oh, let's rank it on a score of 1 to 100, this would be a score of 47. And the point of this score is to watch how Nepal evolves over time. So what we want to do is, this is a baseline year, and we want to compare, okay, what's it going to be like at the end of 2021? And how did it change? And can we look at the things that are holding us back and say, this is what we could do, what we could prioritize. Here are the strategies that we can focus on that help advance us, so that next year we look and we say, oh, we're further along than we were before. So that's what that score of 47% means. And that's broken out into different ways. So let me describe what some of those are. You'll see here this digital inclusiveness score. So this again will say, all right, well, how well are marginalized or more vulnerable parts of the population being included in the digital economy? Excuse me. And there we see a score of 46%. We'll slice that up in a few slides. But then we'll specifically, a subset of that, we'll say, what's the gender inclusiveness score? Right here, we'll see 57%. So it's, again, how well are women being included in the digital economy? And so that's on the inclusiveness side. The next slide will go deeper into that. But then we'll slice up this overall IDES score into 4 key components, or in this case, they look at quadrants like on a face of a clock. You see in the top right-hand quadrant, the policy and regulation, a score of 65%. Moving down, infrastructure, 51%, innovation, 40%, and skills, 31%. And this is where each of the panels will dive deeper into what's involved with each of those. But those are the scores overall for IDES. So I mentioned the inclusiveness score was 46%. So here's the total of that. Well, you can slice that up by different populations, different segments of the population, and see a different score for different groups of people. How well are rural people included in the digital economy? You see about a score of 59%. We already talked about women at 57, but you'll see for youth, elderly, refugees, migrants, disabled, even MSMEs, micro, small, medium-sized enterprises, how well they are included. So again, the goal is to watch this improve over time. The dark blue is what the score is. The light blue is the gap that we want to work on improving over time. So now to dive into those 4 main components of IDES, and the first one being policy and regulation, had an overall score of 65%. And that's broken into 3 subcomponents. And the first 2 have to do with how well is the government promoting a digital agenda. And so the first one looks at the different ministries and departments and say, okay, do they have explicit promotion of a digital agenda? We see pretty good score here, 67%. The next one would say, look at specific policies. Are there policies that are beneficial to a digital economy that the government is promoting? You see there. And then lastly, the existing regulation, how well is this being implemented? How can we see this in action, not just in promotion? Those are some of the examples of what the policy and regulation, and we'll dive deep into one specific practical example of that. The next score of infrastructure is made up of these 4 components: ID infrastructure. And so you might say like the percent of the population who is registered with the identification, or connectivity. The amount of coverage is really good in the country. Let's say the level of 3G coverage is less so. And then the network performance score from the GSMA is even a little lower. So those are the things that kind of bring that down, even though there's much, again, higher overall connectivity across the country. The ICT usage and ownership have more to do with like the population's use of internet, or the affordability of mobile services. And then lastly, the digital payments. You see this is the lower end because of the percent of the population who has a digital finance account, and then an even smaller proportion, says 10%, has an active digital finance account, active in the last 90 days. So those are, again, the areas within infrastructure that we can focus on together. The third component, innovation, made up of these 4 different sub-components. So the community, this will involve things like the number of fintechs compared to the regional leader, the country in the region that has the highest number. How do we compare as Nepal in terms of the number of fintechs, or say the collaboration between university and industry research, or e-government activities? These would be some examples that contribute to that score. The skills here refer to the digital readiness of the workforce. And so this is most of this is based on the Global Competitiveness Index and the scores for that. So how easy is it to get digitally ready workers? And you might look at things like the tertiary school enrollment at 12%. That would be one thing that would be bringing down that subcomponent. And then the infrastructure for innovation refers mostly to like, are there innovation hubs? Are there multi-stakeholder collaboration? That kind of bodies at work to bring people together to innovate better. And then lastly, investment. So this is where you'll look at how prevalent is VC, venture capital funding, but then you'll see that the score is brought up really by the availability of domestic credit. So those are the innovation pieces, and we'll dive into one specific example with the panel. And then the fourth and last component of IDES on the skills, this has really to do with the skills of the population. So we break this down into 3 subcomponents: the basic skills, and this might refer more to things like the mean years of schooling at 4.9 for Nepal. But then digital literacy, we will say, okay, is there a presence of curriculum at schools? Or what percent of schools have internet access? Or what percent of providers provide customer training around digital literacy? Or similarly for financial literacy. Again, private companies can provide training to their customers on financial literacy. What number of companies do that? Or is there curriculum at school? Or the percent of savings at a financial institution. It's around 41% for Nepal. So those are the elements that make up that score. So that was IDES in a nutshell. And these scores reveal specific action items that we can work on together. 4 of them we'll talk about in depth today. So I won't, promoting interoperability, advancing a digital ID, proliferating fintechs, and growing digital and financial literacy through public campaigns and school curriculums. But there's a whole list in the report that you'll get. So others that include like how we mainstream rural women and MSMEs in the digital economy, promoting tertiary technical schools, improving access to finance for MSMEs, and using this tool IDES for following up with stakeholders and tracking the implementation of the Digital Nepal framework over time. So that was IDES in a nutshell. And again, the panels will dive into specific examples related to this. But first, let me start to get your interaction with this. What do you think about all that? We're going to launch a poll that Manish will do for everyone to be able to pick, and I'll read it when he pulls it up. Which component do you think is the most important for the digital economy? Policy and regulation, infrastructure, innovation, skills, or something else? So you've got 30 seconds for all of the participants to be able to answer that, and we'll see the results. It's like between policy and regulation and infrastructure are neck and neck. Again, we say it's all important. So great. Thank you, Manish. We'll share the results. Great. It looks like infrastructure came out on top with 42%. Okay, let's see. We've got the next question. Which component does your organization work on the most to change? Your organization, your ministry, your department, your company, again, of the 4, policy and regulation, infrastructure, innovation, skills, or is it something that we weren't accounting for? We'll take 30 seconds. This one seems a little more even. Okay, great. Again, nice to see a balance. It's good to show that everybody is working on important things there. And innovation came out a little bit on top with 33%. Excellent. Thank you, Manish. And so now we'll move into our first panel on policy and regulation. And again, we're picking out one action item and diving deeper into what's involved with that. So the focus question for this was, what policy changes would best promote interoperability? And again, interoperability is what brings us the network effects that raises the value of everybody working on a digital network together because we're able to interact with each other. And if there are few people and they can't interact with each other, it's less valuable. But when you start getting great network effects, more people want to be involved. And so first, we'll invite Mr. Bhuban Kadel, Executive Director of Nepal Rashtra Bank. Sir, thank you very much for coming to share with us. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so we only see you.
Shall I?
Yes, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Christopher. Thank you once again. Honorable Secretary, Nepal Government, respected participants and friends, very warm good afternoon and namaste once again. First of all, I would like to thank UNCDF for giving this floor, this opportunity to Nepal Rashtra Bank, and especially myself representing Payment System Department. Thank you once again. As I am given the mandate to speak on the interoperability only, so I shall focus myself on that topic, as well as I'm definitely looking into that 5-minute time bracket also. Thank you. About interoperability, I must mention that NRB, and when we talk about the payment system literature documents, this term may be the most frequently used term you can see here and there in the framework, let's say retail payment strategy framework 2019, or maybe the strategy paper or monetary policy. We have rightly highly focused on this term because we understand at NRB that the foundation of efficient, reliable, robust payment system is interoperability. So to maintain that interoperability or towards that goal, we have done a few things like you can say the establishment of Nepal payment national payment switch itself, which the central bank already decided and the working already started. And on this topic, my this fellow speaker and my friend Nileshji will talk in detail later on. Definitely, he is the CEO of that project, let's say, and as well as is very instrumental. NRB has full confidence on him. So one is that national payment switch. The other part, if we could see, the recent development is the publication of Nepal QR standardization framework and guidelines, which NRB recently published, and now we could see that all QR issuer, operator, or stakeholders, now we shall be, that label shall be maintained to have that interoperability. So we have taken that step as another major achievement. But moving ahead, we have also, we have already working, and we have initiated to have a technical guidance also from IFC and like that technical partners on the issuing the circular on interoperability itself. So very soon we shall have one specific circular how that interoperability will be there on the system. So these are few things which NRB already working and is working to have that interoperability in the payment systems here in Nepal. So in this context, we would like to welcome the learned personnel here and the respected everyone from to have any feedback, suggestions to NRB. You always welcome. Please feel free to write to myself, to PSD, or whatever you feel comfortable to share your thoughts. So with this note, I shall have, I rather would like to stop here and would like to listen more from your side. Thank you, Christopher, once again, and over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for, again, Nepal Restaur Bank's very important work. Let me then introduce Mr. Neelish Man Singh Pradhan, is the CEO of Nepal Clearinghouse Limited, obviously doing a lot of work in this. So the floor is yours, Neelish ji.
Thank you very much, Mr. Krish. Good afternoon, everyone. I have a few slides as well, so I'll be sharing the screen to start with. I would not like to, since there is only 5 minutes given to me as well, so I'll not get into the formalities per se. But to start with, when we talk about the Nepal Clearinghouse Limited and with respect to the topic given on interoperability, more than policies related, which we believe that central bank is the right agency for deriving all those regulations and the policies. NCHL is more of an implementing agency for those policies, whether that's on infrastructure or that's on any other digital instruments or on interoperability as well. So when we look at it from the implementation agency, we normally start it as a base document of Nepal's NRB's National Payment System Development Strategy of 2014, which has later been detailed in their strategic plan or retail payment system strategy of 2019 or similar other circulars as well. So when we get into that strategy document, there are 7 pillars, out of which larger payment systems, retail payment system, government transactions, capital market, DVP, and international remittance. Those 5 pillars is what we exactly work at. in terms of implementing the strategies or the policies of the central bank. So how we are doing it is with respect to the implementation or the operations of the different payments infrastructure that is required for the clearing and settlement, number one. And second, for providing the instruments or the channels as a platform to the end customers of the banks or the PSPs as well, and providing the open interfaces for complete interoperability of the banks, PSPs, and even for the service providers as well. So these are the list of systems that we provided as a product of the services: check clearing for non-cash-based paper instruments, interbank payment system as an automated clearing house, faster payment system, Connect IPS, NPI as an open interface, which is a unified API for interconnecting with any of the payment systems or any of the services. This is exactly the interface which is being used right now by the government of Nepal, by means of which in this fiscal year, they have already achieved around 90% of the payout transactions done by the government of Nepal, and around 8 to 9% on the revenue side as well. So we are also facilitating the central bank for interconnection between the banks for RTGS transactions as well, even though the RTGS is actually held by or operated by the central bank. And there are other platforms used by the retail customers or the business customers of the banks and financial institutions, like the corporate pay or Connect IPS mobile app or web applications that we provide as a platform as a service. So in a nutshell, the policy direction of the central bank, or even in some sense, the Nepal government's budgetary plans, annual plans, we normally remain at the forefront to get that implemented. And the interoperability is one of that. And when we talk about the interoperability, that's basically starts with the collaborative model between the shareholders. That's a bank, PSPs, entities, or any other service providers. So when we talk about these payment systems, and if we look at the transactions, the impact that is being created by these payment systems, right now we see that from paper-based instrument to is being migrated towards a complete digital payment system. So even the check transactions getting stagnated. We're seeing much of a transaction growth on interbank payment systems and the faster payment system, Connect IPS, growth of on this fiscal year only. We are at the growth of around 80% on interbank payment system, and in Connect IPS, around 385% of the growth is what we are seeing, even in this pandemic situation as well. And going forward, we see much of a traction on the demand side for digital payments. And at the same time, from an infrastructure or the interoperability perspective, we need to build up the infrastructure required to scale up or to support those transactions. So if we look at the impact that is actually creating, I believe that this is important to look since this is the actual impact these payment systems actually creating in terms of the digital economy is basically, if you look at the digital transaction vis-a-vis the GDP ratio as well, only the transactions of NCHL only around 300% of the GDP is what we are actually processing in this fiscal year. And if we exclude the checks also, around 82% of the transaction, 82% of transaction to GDP ratio is what we are processing. So the growth or the impact on the digital economy, this is increasing, and the impact of the infrastructure that NCHL is providing is very I believe that this is very getting into the very interesting period of time. And there is a few data that I've shared for the government of Nepal transaction as well. In terms of the outgoing transaction, we've already processed, that's the data till mid of May, around 404 billion equivalent of transactions what we have processed for the government of Nepal. For incoming transaction, around 9.5 billion equivalent of transactions for the revenue collections. So we still believe that there are lots of scope for even for the government transactions as well. Now, where are we moving now then in terms of infrastructure or in terms of the services? So when we talk about the interoperability, we need to have the interoperability from the infrastructure side, digital financial service provider side,
30 seconds banks, over, Nilesh. So just
PSPs or even the service providers. So the consolidation, aggregations, interoperability is what is happening right now. And if you see the data as well, most of these transactions are moving into the open API-based transaction initiation. So let it be transaction initiated from the government or any other agencies, remittances, insurances, merchant banks, large corporates, even the fund managers, capital markets, all those transactions are moving into the API, open API transactions. Around 52% of the transactions we process have been received through APIs. So that's where we are moving. for interoperability. This is NPI, which has already been established, and we're trying to scale it up to support the growing transactions. And at the same time, we are also working on the interoperability of the cards as well for the card transactions, and for establishing the Nepal payment card, which will be the Nepal's domestic card schemes as well. So on the card side, this is a project in progress, and the consolidated component of the cards and non-card related retail, this is being established as a national payment switch project. This is under implementation and has already been approved by the central bank for getting implemented. So I leave it up to give it back to you. Thank you very much for giving us a time to put some points from NCHL side. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Neelish Ji. Again, I'm sorry I have to keep to time so that we can have for the next, there's so many things to do for a digital economy. So thank you for your daily work. Let's do the quick poll from Manish again. And the question is, what are the most important benefits would be experienced if payment systems were more interoperable? So you got 30 seconds to decide. Is it more customers starting to use digital, or more people starting to use digital wallets? You'd personally find it more convenient, or the financial system would become more efficient? All of the above, or something else? It's like all of the above is popular. We'll wait for Manish to end it, but it looks like the clear winner, all of the above. Okay, so there's a lot of benefits to interoperability. So thanks for your work on that. We'll move on to the next panel on infrastructure. And the focus question for this are, what actions will be required to advance the digital ID for transactions and central KYC? Again, many people are marginalized because they don't have physical ID. The digital ID system can be far more efficient for people to be able to identify themselves and access services. And a central KYC system can again leverage all of the different onboarding that different companies need to do to be able to, again, KYC, know your customer. So first we'll start with Subhash Dakal, the IT Director for the Department of National ID and Civil Registration. I'll stop sharing my screen so that you can have the floor now. You're on mute. So if you can
thank you, Mr. Kishore, and thank you, UNCTF and Ministry of Information, Communication and Technology. So I know Communication and IT, Ministry of Communication and IT for organizing this program. Good afternoon, everybody. So I will directly go into what is our visions on the national ID and what we are planning next, so that it will facilitate for the further discussions, and I hope it will also help us to move with a better strategy and better programs. So our vision and our concepts of the national ID, as most of the digital IDs do, we are envisioning this ID as a foundational ID and shared ID. So we have right now citizenship certificates as a foundational ID, but it has a lot of limitations. So the government decided to move into a new form of digital ID. So basically difference on the existing ID systems and this digital ID, and of course we follow other international practices also. So with this ID is the identification of an individual is based on the both biographic and biometric information is one of the key differences on the other. So another is, as we say, the uniqueness is essential part. As for the National ID and Civil Registration Act 2076, this national ID as a foundational ID will be compulsory for every private sector and government services with a gazette notification. So this is one of the important parts. So government has already So we have already a regulation, rules, act that will ensure that compulsory use of this digital ID. So for every services. So we have two options. We go with the national ID card as a proof of identity, and that can be used while getting a service, or even we have options of using national identity number to get the services wherever possible that we have we can do the online verification. So that's why our vision of the national ID is a multi-purpose and multi-modal uses of national ID. So that is the key strategy of our national ID infrastructure development in Nepal. So we have carefully look after these aspects and have ensured that this national ID ecosystem or digital ID could be used in both online and offline form. So of course, for the offline, we need a ID card, and it can be even the card or cardless. So if we, even in the online, we have a multiple options, like we can digitally read the card through the chips, or we have now proposed, or I think the last cabinet might have also approved that. Now we will have a QR code in the card so that we can more conveniently use this ID system. So our focus on this ID is like we can do a verification and authentication of every citizens. So verification, we can do both biographic information verifications like their name, date of birth, address, permanent, temporary address, their parents' name, everything that could also be verified, or even a client could be verified. So we are talking about the eKYC, or even a bank can verify its client through these informations. Or we have another facility in this system is authentication of individual citizens that is required by the government agencies or even the private agencies to authenticate their clients. So we can authenticate based on the card or based on the biometric informations. So basically biometric information that could be used for the authentications as for now is a fingerprints and IDES. So with this, we have also, so we have some of the myth that how the digital ID could be used, but I want to focus on that. This approach is the verification and the authentication is that. So it's for most of the agencies, digital ID system is like a black box. They can request for verification and authentications, but they cannot get the data unless and until the citizen himself or herself authenticate to access the data through their credential. So
Subhashi, this is the 5-minute mark.
Okay, so this is our concepts on these systems that we are doing, and the current status is we have right now like 3 million records of citizens has been captured, and about 2 million have been processed, and we are processing like 50,000 records per day. 50,000 records per day are being processed. So with this speed, in 1 month, so we'll reach the 3 million records processed in the systems, authenticated and validated in the systems. So now we have a provision. So our card distributions plan has been delayed. So alternatively, we have implemented systems to distribute NIN, national identity number, in SMS, so that immediately they can use the NID verification and authentications through their national identity number with some limitations. So we have already Act and regulations that have been approved, and we are working on that. So our future roadmap for this is that we are developing an integration guidelines that will be useful for the other agencies. And when we have a easier this COVID, we'll have an easy COVID this situation means due to the COVID-19. So we are not being able to do the stakeholder outreach programs effectively. So after the situation will be easier, then we will have a stakeholder outreach and consultations. And our plan is that within next 6 months, will realize the uses of digital ID in both government and private sector service provider. That is our target right now. Thank you.
Subhashji, thank you very much for sharing that. And let me, without further ado, move to Mr. Sunil Padel, the Executive Director of the National Information Technology Center, which will be very important, again, for this, particularly housing the eKYC. So Sunil, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Christopher, Respected Secretary of MOCIT, Ms. Sarah Vaishalav Niyanti, UN Resident Coordinator, Mr. Bhuvan Kandil, Sir, Executive Director, NRB, Anil Datta, Sir, speakers, panelists, and all participants of this webinar. A very good afternoon. I would like to thank MOCIT and UNCDF for providing me this opportunity to share my views as a panelist in this esteemed gathering. As everybody in this gathering do believe that the major goal of any digital initiatives of the government is to provide safe, secure, and cost-effective services to the citizen, even in the remotest part of the country. At present, most of the government ministries, departments, and agencies have some kind of e-services of different maturity level. And being the data center operator and IT implementing wing of the government, we at IDES do believe we have important role to play. And it is important that before availing those e-services to the citizen, especially that of transactional in nature, those ministry, department, and agency need to have access to some kind of mechanism for robust and secure verification of individuals' identity. Thus, we can say reliable digital ID is a prerequisite for effective and secure delivery of such services. Earlier in the session, my colleague from Department of ID and Civil Registration just shared their ongoing effort on national ID. I'd like to share with this esteemed gathering that we will be integrating those systems in our Nagarik app, which is our single delivery platform of Government of Nepal. Government of Nepal have recently launched Nagarik app as a one-stop app to act as a bridge between different government e-services with citizen for whom those services are developed. Nagarik app uses mobile number as user's primary ID for registration to the system, thus having the number of own is a prerequisite in order to avail its services. In addition to that, in Nagarik app, we also integrated those citizenship data from Citizen Information Management System of Ministry of Home Affairs, passport data from Department of Passport, voters ID database from Election Commission as a base proxy IDs. And in addition to that, we also have include various systems from Inland Revenue Department and other ministry departments for the respective services. And we're also trying to integrate universities and the bank and finance institutes in our Nagarik app as a single platform for all these services. And I also want to emphasize that only the registered and verified users can access their own respective data through this app. During the official inauguration of full version of Nagarik app by Right Honorable Prime Minister during National ICT Day on May the 2nd of this year, one of the new features launched was opening a bank account from this Nagarik app. This was made possible by integrating the online KYC system of concerned bank with Nagarik app, enabling user to share one's required personal information and verification document securely and effortlessly to the bank. Similarly, now the citizen can apply and get the permanent account number instantly through the Nagarik app and also character verification document certificate from Nepal Police through this using this app. In the future, citizens will also be able to enroll for universities or apply for a job or pay government taxes through Nagarik app without having to upload scanned documents to prove one's identity and required additional information. Availability of robust, secure, and user-friendly e-services, reliable and affordable broadband connectivity, digital literacy, security, and privacy of those data are critical factors for wide adoption of those e-services, and presence of widely accessible digital ID that is easy to use, secure, and interoperable plays an important role to achieve this goal. Through Nagarik app, we are trying to offer such platform to service providing agencies to connect with the citizens. And I would also like to highlight that in the budget speech for our upcoming fiscal year, Government of Nepal emphasized to integrate all government services to Nagarik app. This will allow all government entities access to centralized system to deliver their e-services. With this, I would like to conclude my presentation, and if there are any questions, I will be happy to answer during Q&A sessions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sunilji. Appreciate that. It sounds like great work. I'm going to share screens to move to our next panel. And again, we'll come back to Q&A later. So this is the, oh wait, that's right, poll. Thank you. I forgot about Manish will launch the poll to see your interaction with this content. Would your organization take advantage of a digital ID system for your customers or constituents in your operations? Yes, no, not sure, or still not clear. What is digital ID? I'll give you 30 seconds so far. Enthusiastic folks to use your app. Okay, 85% or 83% say yes. Good. We'll do more working together. So we'll stop sharing this and go on to the next panel, which is around innovation. And again, it had many subcomponents, but we're diving into one specific aspect, and that's what needs to be done to promote proliferation of fintechs and products that meet diverse needs. And again, in this case, the COVID pandemic that we're all suffering from is a great example of how fintechs can be responsive to the different people's needs. In different countries, we've seen examples of fintechs popping up and coming up with even mobile health insurance or COVID insurance through different apps. And again, the more companies out there and fintechs that are providing different services, they can meet the needs of different populations because it can be personalized and segmented to very specific targets like, again, women, the rural, MSMEs, youth. So for this conversation, we brought in, we have Mangeshla Shrestha, the chairperson of the ICT Development Committee of FNCCI. He'll start off, so I'll stop sharing so the floor can be yours.
Thanks, Chris. Hi, everyone. This is Mangesh. Good afternoon to everyone. I'll share my screen in the interest of time. I'll just move ahead, and I would like to thank everyone for having me here. So Nepal's inclusive digital economy, it's been a very interesting topic in our vision as well. And if you see Nepal, right, as per mega trends, you can see that connectivity, the social trends that you see, and is also the future economic trends, we see that digital is playing more and more important role in the private sector as well. And that's a huge ecosystem transition, and COVID has just accelerated that as well, right? So what is FNCCI and the digital economy doing into that? So FNCCI recently in April launched our vision paper, where we talk about 3 goals about how do we get to $100 billion economy, how to generate additional 2.2 million jobs, and also how to reduce our trade deficit and improve balance of trade as well. So we are staying within this vision itself. But there are about 100 initiatives that's been identified, and out of which about 14 of them are linked with digital initiatives, and identified in 3 buckets, as you see out here. One is convenient and competitive business environment, which is aligned with the government's e-governance framework as well as implementation, which we just heard, and we appreciate that, and we improve that for ease of doing business and also improving business environment and transparency as well. The second one is moving towards our what we call a knowledge economy. So how do we transform into that specific futuristic and high skill based economy? And for that, we need infrastructure as well, where we've included digital infrastructure, not only about fiber optics and data centers, but also we also talked about smart cities as a vision. So this is a 10-year vision that we have. And today, I've been asked to focus on what we call promotion of fintech and e-commerce as well, where fintech and e-commerce are one of the cross-cutting foundation for digital economy. So for that, we see there has been an adoption, and during COVID, it has exponentially increased by force, right? And it's coming from non-pure BFSI or financial service providers. So we have one of the speakers today as well, but yeah, that's where we see the ecosystem going on, and we've participated in certain fintech regulation as well as e-commerce regulation as well. So how are we implementing this? We've structured ourselves for a digital inclusion, right? There's a huge focus on digital Nepal that we want to do. For that, for implementation, we feel that for private sector, we need policy supports. And we're identifying programs that private sector wants to play a role as well. And media comes under us as well. But there's a huge effect on digital media. But intercoordination is a big role out here, where we talk about intercoordination nationwide in 77 districts, about including each and every member of FNCCI and investing into that as well. So Digital Nepal, we are mapping into it very strongly. We feel implementation of Digital Nepal is the key. And there are few enablers that we feel are key, and which is identified in the Digital Nepal as well, is one is talent and skill development. That there is a huge gap, and UNCDF also has identified that being one of the lowest scoring point as well. We feel that technology and infrastructure is another factor that needs to be implemented well in conjunction with private sector, PPP, and government as well. Another one is startup and entrepreneurship as well is a key factor for driving this digital economy. So having said that, COVID has been an opportunity for innovation in digital space. Digital definitely has been a savior for the economy. And we can see that, we're doing Zoom seminar, as you can see. And innovation is very imperative to rebound from this particular pandemic. And we see that one of the challenges during this, when we are forced into digital economy, is digital inclusion, right? We talk about schools, healthcare, fintech, so on and so forth as well, right? So it's so many things that we go in. And a multi-stakeholder collaboration is very, very important. We appreciate UNCDF taking this lead as well. It's commendable. So going forward, we are in discussion with government as well. How can we partner between private sector and the government as well to implement? The second thing is the frameworks and policies will be there, but without investment, there will not be an economy. So that's where the private sector comes in. And we've also initiated what we call a innovation and startup.
This is the 5-minute mark, letting you know.
Yeah, this is my last slide, so yeah. So startup and innovation committee as well, where we are promoting about 50 startups to go into future economies. Most of the companies that we see, about 80% we see, are in digital space as well. The third one is digital inclusion. This is key. The ICT infrastructure reaching everyone, and also having a digital literacy to utilize not only as workers, but even the customers is very important. Definitely knowledge economy, policy reform. We need to have a right policy foundation or in parallel so that digital economy is unleashed and the power can be consumed. Well, in this challenging time, I would like to end saying that digital adoption has accelerated as exponentially, as well as we see in fintech and so on and so forth, but also in e-commerce, creating new avenues of digital economy in Nepal as well. And we see that staying for a very long time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mangesh-ji. Appreciate your comments. And so now I'll turn this over to the group president for F1 Soft, Mr. Biswas Takal. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Christopher, and thank you for giving me opportunity to share my view on this a very interesting panel. And so as technology fintech player and being in this market for long, so we have like experienced few things that needs to be taken care, and we need to move a little bit fast on few of the aspects to bring inclusiveness on the financial space. So as we all know, like due to the challenges in geographical terrains and density of population differs from urban to rural in a very diverse way. And that's the one reason that the cost of doing business and cost of serving is like pretty much high. And despite having the great infrastructure of financial institutions and banking and reaching out to the larger mass, still we are like a little bit behind on giving the diverse services on the financial solutions. So because of the cost, because of the profitability, and because of the cost of serving is like a pretty much high. So that there comes the role of fintech player to minimize the cost of doing business, as well as to minimize or to speed up the execution process to serve these underprivileged community. So the biggest challenge what we face till today, and it's good to hear from the government agencies as well, like we are in a very good progress of having a centralized KYC, and we'll be experiencing that soon. So what I feel is like in the meantime, like and we are in the 21st century, like still we are struggling to have a unified banking ID, where you can get identifications of the customers who are already banking till today. And from the central bank data, more than 20 million Nepalese are already banked, and but we are still struggling to have the unified verifications for those customers, which can be done without any time lag, I believe. And there's the role of a fintech player or the technology player to serve the nation by developing the centralized or the accumulating the centralized verifications under central bank guidance or under central bank data center. So that's the key component where technology player can serve on the infrastructure side to provide the wider prospect, and to leverage and to bring all the stakeholders and players to participate by utilizing the current strength and resources that is already there, building since decade and decade, to be maximum utilized and to faster the development process. And what I believe is like there are so many things that needs to be taken care to serve the community. Few I can list out, and if I want to go, like there is a couple of hours needs to explain each and every aspect. But what I see is like having 30 million population nearly, but still we're just having 1.4 million on the are able to get capital, means like the access to capital till today. That is like less than 5% of Nepalese are just limited for the capital. And one research show that 0.02% finance business contribute 21% of the GDP in United States alone. So that means how important is that to get access to capital to the people to do their business, to run their like the livelihood. So it shows like where we are on the lending side, and there is a room where we need to improve a little bit on the policy side to bring the accessibility on the credit. Definitely we are good on the banking access, saving access, but we are very much far on bringing the access to the credit line for the customers as well as SMEs and MSMEs, where the driving for the economy in future. The other important aspect is like there is a very limited number in the insurance coverage. Only nearly about 17% Nepalese are insured, and rest are still out from the insurance services. So if we able to provide the technology backed insurance solutions, and to bring mass and to provide solutions to even to the remote areas, it will give a big values. And along with that, there is a huge prospect on the health insurance side, where like I can just give you an example. Like if anyone is standing in a queue to pay the bill at health service, they can easily, if with the technology intervention, they can easily say like, dear Biswas, you just need to pay 50,000 and 20,000 is covered by your insurance. So that can be done and improved through the technology moving forward. And also one of the other aspect is like the credit habit, or they say like the discipline is very low, and because there is no parameter to check the credit scoring of the individual lender or loan customers. The scenario is like, if I have a home loan.
Biswasji, just letting you know the 5-minute mark. Thank you.
Yeah, so just I'll conclude. So if I am exposed for the car loan or home loan, like I can defer for a couple of days, and there is no any like backlash or any profile defer by paying 2 days in a late. So with the credit scoring, it will bring discipline on the consumer who are like exposed to the for the lending, and it will bring a little bit of inclusiveness on the lending side as well. So I'll conclude my thought, and thank you so much for giving me opportunity to share. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Biswasji, and for the work you do all the time. Let's go to our poll. Manish will say, how do people interact with the FinTech question? The question, what sector do you see benefiting the most if digital financial services were delivered through a FinTech? In other words, what practical needs could be addressed by embedding digital financial products through a FinTech? Is that just in finance, or would it be done in agriculture, health, education, or energy? Something else you see more important? Finance is the easy answer at 60%. 64. Okay, so we'll close the poll, and we see finance at the lead, and 66%. That's the easiest for us to understand digital financial services in that way. Okay, so we'll move on to the next panel. How can digital and financial literacy among the general population in Nepal be improved through schools and public campaigns? Again, this is the ability of the population to engage with digital tools. This was the score that needed the most support over time. And so to start, we'll have Mr. Min Prasad Aryal, the director of the Nepal Telecom Authority, share. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that you can have the floor now.
Thank you, Christopher. Respected Secretary of Ministry of Communications and IT and other distinguished participants. Thank you very much for giving me this platform to share some of my views, especially on digital skills. As we all know that the importance of ICT, that means IT is increased day by day, and the data-centric applications is being increased exponentially. Previously, the voice applications were there. Nowadays, the data-centric applications is increased exponentially, and it will be continued in the future as well. So far, we know our current status, that means the ICT and telecom status. As for the latest statistics, the penetration of mobile in Nepal is almost 130%, and internet means the broadband penetration is almost 87%. And government of Nepal has also different initiatives on to promote the digital skills. ICT policy 2015 that has also set targets to achieve the digital literacy by 70% by 2020. But as we see that the presentations, it is just 31% digital skills, in the scoreboard, what we already see. So it is there is a huge gap to be addressed by all the stakeholders, that is including the policymakers, regulators, other private entities, consumers, and everywhere. So far, the ITU also has published KPIs in relation to the global ICT index. There are 3 different categories. One is the the ICT readiness, that is infrastructure and access. Another category is usage, that is the intensity of usage, and another is the digital skills. So for 2017, ITU has published the Global ICT Index, and the digital skill indicator of Nepal that was identified is 37% almost. There are so many challenges that need to be addressed by us. I would like to say some way forward to increase the digital skills KPIs in Nepal. What I would like to say is we need to develop a clear roadmap and national strategy with some action plans with the identifications of role and responsibilities of the associated entities and stakeholders. That is very important because we have the policy already there. Government of Nepal has the Digital Nepal Framework 2019. It has also many initiatives in relation to digital skills. We see that the government e-learning platform is there. ICT in education is one of the initiative in the Digital Nepal Framework. Similarly, open learning educations, mobile learning center in the rural areas, and others. Many initiatives have been kept in the Digital Nepal Framework 2019. So we need to implement the initiatives that has been kept in the Digital Nepal Framework. So far, what I say is it is necessary to have a separate institutional setup with the required human resource and resources or tools to implement the Digital Nepal Framework in effective manner. And another part is, we need to address the digital skills levels. There are different types of levels, the basic and intermediate levels that can be achieved through the formal or non-formal education channels. Formal means through primary or secondary schools. Non-formal means such as we utilize the public library or the community centers education channels. So we should, address such type of skills, basic and intermediate skills, and advanced skill as well through the means of training or some other special mechanisms. Also, we need to address the issues through creating opportunities for underrepresented people, populations. That means women and girls, person with disabilities, aging populations. We need to have special, action plans to address for the digital skill enhancement for such underprivileged group. And government of Nepal, the Ministry of Communications, Ministry of Education has already developed a draft ICT in Education Master Plan. We need to have more consultation on this and finalize the ICT in Education Master Plan. It is necessary to synchronize with 15th National Plan, and to achieve the SDG, we need to use the ICT in Education Master Plan as well.
And
We
Minji,
need to
it's at
utilize
the 5-minute mark now.
Okay, just I'd like to conclude. There are different stakeholders. It is necessary to have partnership among the associated stakeholders, means the partners, to increase the digital skills that is poor at this moment, what I feel. And another part is the government of Nepal and NTA is also committed to promote and to prioritize these digital skills through means of the policy intervention or through other public awareness or the campaigns. It is necessary to bridge the gap between the challenges and the opportunities, and we need to address our government policy, means the broadband for all through the means of digital skills. So I think it is very important topics that need to be addressed through the means of legislative provision, policy provision, and especially in implementation. It is very essential to focus on implementation as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minji. Appreciate your comments and your work. Let me turn it over to Mr. Sujit Shrestha, the COO, Chief Operating Officer of Standard Chartered Bank of Nepal. The floor is yours.
Thanks, Chris and Sarojji, for this opportunity, and very happy to join this panel discussion along with our distinguished panelists. And I think from the last, the poll, it looks like I'm in the right industry. Looks like we are getting the highest benefit out of all these digital initiations, right? It's quite broad topic, right, Chris? So I'm just trying to give some of the holistic perspective as well as some of the industry specific initiatives. Okay, so I may be wrong because I don't have the clear data on that, but from the experience, I want to share some of the things. How can we increase the digital literacy? Okay, so it's there could be some easy answers. Okay, and from my industry perspective, if we may say like we can include this in CSR, we can help citizens to understand digital part as we do for financial literacy. Also, it's already there, and we can actually keep it as a part of our organization CSR volunteering activity. Also, we could actually jointly do with some of the digital inclusion festivals, partnering with the government, and also contribute to some of the mass trainings on emerging technologies. These are some simple answers to the question. And similarly, out of the industry, if I may say, like as earlier our speaker also mentioned, that the skill-based trainings on emerging technologies are getting very important, right? So it has to come in the academic curriculum of colleges and universities. So that could be another way. But are these, the question could be, another question could be, are these basic trainings or literacy enough to support that aspiration, which we are actually making to make our economy more digitally enabled, right? So that's a big question. So what are the key stakeholders for our digital economy or ecosystem? Today also we have seen a lot of representation from various industries, governments, and the regulator. So are we all adequately aware and equipped with the digital literacy on our respective domains? Okay, that could be the question. So for instance, for government and regulatory awareness, are we aware of RegTechs and GovTechs? Okay, industry awareness, like for me, fintech awareness could be one of the requirements, and also the consumer awareness, where we are saying, what people need to be aware of: the online payments, wallets, online education, could be monetizing digital platform, or could be social media integration. All of these, along with the information and cybersecurity and digital frauds kind of awareness, could be another area. So some of the prerequisites, which I think are like, our tech partners, they need to also have the competency and the scalability while they provide the solutions, and also the decision maker. So it could be within the industries also, that the people at the CXOs, okay, CXOs level, or are they aware of the power of these emerging technology, right? So another aspect, what I want to talk is like when people are using this, various platforms like Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. So we have not seen that kind of push, or that we have not seen the requirement of that kind of push to make these people use it. So what could be the reason for that? Why resistance comes when people have to use some platform? Because it could be actually pushed by some industry or the businesses, not making this as a requirement of the end user or consumer, and not making it having that kind of client experience. Okay, so there could be a lot of push and a lot of effort may be required to learn this. So it has to be a simple solution that can be learned by people on the go. So that could be another aspect. So I'll give you some of the examples like what we are doing from industry perspective. Firstly, as I said, it's not only our awareness, the whole ecosystem partner need to be aware, right? So for us, on that point, NRB, our central bank, our regulator, is very important in the whole process. So recently, 2 weeks back, almost 2 weeks back, we conducted one session with NRB. We brought MOX senior management team. MOX is basically a digital bank in Hong Kong. We have recently launched. We're launching in Singapore also. But when we are saying digital bank, there is misunderstanding also, right? So people are thinking like, okay, just rolling out one solution on payment or rolling out another solution on onboarding could be the digital bank, right? So, but it's not. So we have, in fact, discussed about broadly revolving around the regulatory frameworks, the requirement around the financials like minimum capital, the parental support guarantee, all those kind of things, and the know-hows of the banking and the local market, transparency, openness, all of these aspects, right, were discussed. So basically, broadly, what I'm trying to say is it may not be just about learning a platform or a tool or technology. It could be much beyond that. Another example I want to share, and that's with that I'll end my sharing. I recently, almost 2-3 weeks back, again, I attended another session on this academic. Basically, it was more of academic, organized by SEP, Skill for Employment, and also the Genies and AWS came up with, launching one AWS Academy. That's Amazon Web Services Academy. I'm just giving an example how that is transforming the whole academic landscape of Nepal. So they have in fact thousands of universities, colleges they have enrolled, and hundreds and hundreds of colleges, university they have enrolled along with the thousands of students. So what they are doing is that not only the curriculum which have been taught to the students from long time. Okay, so they have added a skill-based training on cloud technology. So if I may share, there could be many other such technology which we can actually the knowledge can be imparted to our students so that they have that day one readiness when they come to the market. And also along with that, they create a better product. Okay, they create technologies which actually we can depend on, rely on, and also the skills are going to help us to build our own bench strength in the country. So that's another good example. So I think it's very holistic, and it's not only about what I can say is popularizing our services, digital services for the end use, but also making sure that at the back end, we are capable of running it. We have a right bench strength in our hand. And also digital doesn't mean only technology. Okay, there are a lot of other roles also which comes along with this running the services. Thank you very much, Chris.
Thank you, Sujit. I appreciate you talking about making it user-friendly, easy for people to use as a key part of how people can learn for themselves. So let's have Manish do our last poll, what people think about skill building. And this one is a little longer. To what degree do you think the general population can learn digital or financial skills via their mobile phones? And this is going to be ranked from high to low. So you have a little more time for reading this. A lot of in-depth knowledge and skills can be conveyed via smartphones. B, skills can only be built through user-friendly apps via smartphones only. C, only limited knowledge can be conveyed via SMS to masses of users with feature phones. Or D, no significant knowledge or skills can be transferred through any kind of phone. Give a couple more seconds to this. Okay, so people seem pretty optimistic. We can do a lot through smartphones or SMS. Okay, let's close that out. And at least 47%, very optimistic. That's a powerful tool that we can use. Okay, so let's then move on to question and answer. We're about at time for the event, but people have raised some very good questions in the Q&A box. And so Francesca is going to help us to, she will ask some of the questions. We'll try to direct to a couple of panelists for about 10 minutes. So Francesca, if you want to start this off.
Yes. So thank you, Chris. So I think we can start with the national ID questions. So there are 3 similar questions, so I will bundle them together for the panelists' attention. So the question is as follows. Please, could you let us know if the national ID is already live or when is it scheduled to go live? And linked to this one, how national ID and Nagaric app could be connected. And then there is a follow-up question on Nagaric app, which is one of the best initiation in Nepal's IT sector. But how Nagaric app is set up with adequate data privacy, data system and security, and data recovery in case of any intrusion?
Great. Why don't we have those first questions to Subhash Ji? And then Sunil Ji can follow up.
Thank you. So national ID is already live. We are in a phase of enrolling our citizens in the national ID system and giving them national identity number. So as I said already, so to correct, so we have as of now, the latest, we have a 2.1 million citizens are already being successfully enrolled and validated in the systems. And we have already signed MOU with Department of Passport. So from the next fiscal year, national ID card or national ID number is compulsory to have this passport to apply for the passport. So we should say we are live now. Thank you. So regarding the national ID and Nagaric app, so for as Sunil sir has said previously, Nagaric app is a platform to integrate the services but the national ID is a platform for verification and authentication of the citizens. So it is not a service integration platform. It is just a platform for verification of citizen details and authenticating the citizens. So thank you. This is from my side. So I think Sunil sir will add a few more things on this.
Thank you. So it's a very important question. We are getting lots of this question about the privacy and security. During my presentation also, I emphasized that the Nagarik app, while developing our Nagarik app, we think security and privacy in our heart. And as rightly I pointed out that to use the Nagarik app, one need to register to their own phone, own mobile number. Because while registering, while downloading the app, before you start using it, you need to verify with the telecoms operators through the app, so that the Nagarik can verify you from your digital ID, that is your phone number. After that, you need to verify that from your either three of the primary ID, that is either from your citizenship, or from your passport, or from your voter's ID. That is, we have a two level of verification, validation, identification, verification, validation method. And after that, only the person can access only their own data. After verification also, just for example, when I register in the Nagarik app, I can't get the data of other person. I can just get data of myself only. And wow, we do this thing on the fly. All the systems are connected to Nagarik app, so we don't store any data in our system. If any person requests those data, we just on the fly, we just send request to the concerned application services, and from there we get the data and we just provide to other target services. So this is like a platform facilitator. We are facilitating those services to connect and provide efficient service to the citizens. So I also want to take this platform to assure city users of Nagarik that this system is safe and secure. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Francesca. Do we have another set of questions?
Yeah, maybe just time for one more, I think. What is the most challenging part of digitalization, especially in the payment system? Do you think that what the Nepalese financial institutions are doing is digitization or more a process automation? And who is the driver for digital economy? Government, financial institution, fintechs, or others?
So that one is a broad enough question anybody could have an opinion on. So go ahead and unmute yourself and share briefly, what do you think in response to that?
Okay, let me try and share my thought, if you allow. Thank you. This question is quite comprehensive one and almost 2-3 sub-questions in it. What I feel at NRB, there is nothing like a single most important factor, nothing, not like that. It's not that easy. It's a teamwork. It's a team of, contribution of all the factors, be it government, be it regulator, be it infrastructure facility, be it the other service providers, be it the public common people, all. So we all have our role to play, and that way we can get the goal of that digitalization. So financial institutions, they are doing their financial services by digitalizing it, as well as they are promoting the cause of overall digital payment system also. So it's fair enough to have a high ranking on the contribution of the financial institutions they are making for these digital payments. And definitely the last part also, we all are responsible and we shall have our role on this digitalization. Thank you.
Thank you, Bhuvanji. Give a second for someone to jump in, or I'll call on a couple people. Okay, so I'm particularly curious, Biswasji or Sujitji, from the private sector perspective, are we really digitizing what our interactions are with our customers, or are we just making things more efficient on our own back end? What percent of time do you spend on each?
Just a quick response to that, as Bhuvan sir mentioned, it's a kind of effort from everyone, and definitely we are doing our part. Yeah, so we need to participate in these initiatives fully. I think it's not only on the transactions perspective, which we have done quite well so far. There's a lot to do on onboarding side, client onboarding, where Nagrik app also, like as Subhasa mentioned, that's going to help that seamless onboarding journey. Similarly, there's a part to do, some part to do in credit or the lending side also, where the bureau, which we have to bring it up. So, and that could also bring a lot of efficiency in our banking system. So those are the few things that I want to share.
Great.
So,
okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So I think like the few aspect that needs to be taken care when we think of like bringing the accessibility to customers. So one is like the very easy way to make customer on board or make them literate is either we are building the technology which are literally solve the problem of the customers. So is that really in need or in demand? So it's not about like innovating something and pushing hard to bring the customers on board and bring the engagement on the platform. So it's better to have like, is your technology solving the problem? So that needs to be taken care. And if anything which solves the problem of individuals, the effort that any innovative companies or innovation won't need to invest much on investing on the literacy side. So we believe as a F1 software, we believe that every technology solutions, every innovations need to solve at least one problem of the individual, so that we don't need to invest much on giving like bringing the customers with the awareness on the literacy level or literacy side. Thank you.
Thank you, Biswasji. That is a great mantra to close our panelists with. Are we solving problems of consumers or constituents? So thank you. Let me move to our closing comments. And we'll start off with, excuse me, Mr. Francois Coupien, the Global Digital Lead for UNCDF. The floor, and then we'll move to Mr. Anil Dutta, the Joint Secretary of the Digital Nepal Framework Secretariat, MOCIT. First, Mr. Francois, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you to all of you. Now, first, I really would like to thank the Ministry of Communication and Information, I think, for hosting this dialogue, and also the UN Nepal Resident Coordinator for the continued support in the country. I think we really value this partnership that will really help us to build an inclusive digital economy in Nepal. And we look forward to this continued collaboration. Also, we really value the government of Nepal's effort with the Digital Nepal Network framework, and as well as the critical role of the private sectors into it. And as I often explain, I really see that digital technology offers this tremendous opportunity to connect all citizens of a country, being a woman, a man, a youth, or an elder person, an MSME, or someone that's in the rural areas, I think, to the real economy. And so really, as a moment when you have a phone in your hand, I think every citizen of a country can now really become a key actors of the development of his or her country, and that offer tremendous opportunities for individuals, the government, and the private sectors. So our objective as UNCDF is really to provide this contribution to support the digital ecosystem and really to be able to make it, let's say, more inclusive. And I think the Inclusive Digital Economy Scorecard is one of the, I think, our contribution in this discussion, just to help, let's say, the country to be able to highlight and to see what are the key priorities we should be focusing on to be able to build these inclusive economies. I would like also to thank all of the panelists. I think I really enjoyed, let's say, all the experience you shared. And so I think some of the key lessons learned, I think building an inclusive digital economy is not one woman or men or one government agency or actors in the sectors. It's really based on the collaboration from various stakeholders. It's really for all of us to be able to bring some of the pieces to the puzzle and to be able to grow this puzzle together. And I think we saw that today in the different discussions about interoperability of payment, digital ID and eKYC, on fintech development, on digital literacy. We see, let's say, the contribution of all these players, and we really need to have this together to be able to grow it. I would like also to thank all the participants. And as you see, and as you see from the result of IDES, but also from the discussion today, there is still a lot to be done in a lot of different areas. And it's really as we work together that we'll be able to achieve this. And as a final comment, and I'm happy that it has been repeated several days today, I just want to remind that developing an inclusive digital economy is not just about, let's say, developing technical solution only. It's really about developing the right service that will be used and that will positively impact the life of all citizens of Nepal. So I think it was mentioned about the resistance to use digital solution, I think is a crucial factor. And so I think in order really to be able to find solution for that, it's key to always place, let's say, the end users of your solution at the center of the design process and the implementation, and just iterate with the end user just to make sure that your solution will bring the more impact. And we at UNCDF, I think we will continuously remind you about it. I think we will always place customers and inclusiveness at the center of your digital transformation in Nepal. So maybe before you leave, I will ask you to fill out the survey. I think when we are exiting this session. And so I would like to thank you again. And now I would like to give the final word to Mr. Anil Dutta. Thank you very much. And thank you for this great event.
Thank you, Francois. And Anil Dutta, the Joint Secretary, Digital Nepal Framework Secretariat of the MOCIT. The floor is yours to wrap us up.
Thank you, Chris. Respected Secretary, respected UN Resident Coordinator, Chris, Sarojji, and team from UNCDF, panelists, colleagues from MOCIT, other ministry, departments, and departments under MOCIT, and participants joined through this virtual environment. I would like to thank you all for your participation in this program. Today we are discussing in the program titled Deep Dive into Nepal's Inclusive Digital Economy Scorecard. This program has been jointly organized by MOCIT and UNCDF. First of all, I want to mention some progress, very few progress from ministry and throughout the Nepal government. Then I will conclude this program. As you know, Digital Nepal Framework is a game changer project of Government of Nepal. This is under 15th Development Plan of Nepal government. We have 18 game changer project. Out of 18 game changer project, one of is Digital Nepal Framework. In this, we have 8 sectors, 80 initiatives. And under Digital Nepal Framework, we have Nagrik Cape. We have officially launched Nagrik Cape on 2nd May 2021. Initially, in beta release, we had included 8 services in Nagrik Cape. Later on, we included another 4 services, and we have identified more than 100 services to be integrated in the Nagrik Cape. We have drafted cybersecurity policy, and that cybersecurity policy is open for feedback, suggestion from different stakeholders. We have already reviewed telecom policy, broadband policy, and IT policy, and we are in the process of drafting the modified policies. We had already sent the IT bill to the Parliament, and we have the program of establishment of Cybersecurity Center and ICT Research Center. Similarly, we are operating security operating center from ministry. We are monitoring all the critical infrastructure which are hosted in GIDs, Government Integrated Data Center. And we have National Information Technology Emergency Response Team. We have in the process of organizing and forming sectoral sorts also. We have made internet as an essential service. We have already data center in center, and we have DRC in Hetauda, and we are in the process of establishment of provisional data center also. We are in the process of establishing knowledge park. We are in the process of establishing or connecting optical fibers throughout the country. We are in the process of expanding 4G technology throughout the country up to world level of BTC in local level, and we have already decided 5G technology to test, and we have developed e-learning platform. At present, Nepal government can generate real-time revenue generation, how much revenue they have generated, and how much have government has just paid, that we can see in the real time. And in conclusion, in this program, we had divided into the 4 sessions: policy session, infrastructure session, innovation session, and skill session. I would like to thank Chris for your very good job for your moderation of these programs. And I would like to thank all the panelists, from policy session, Bhuvan Kaudelju, Nilesh Mansingju, from infrastructure session, Sunil Paudelju, Subhash Dhakalju, innovation session, Mangesh Lal Srishtju, and Vishwas Dhakalju, and from skill sessions, Min Prasad Aryalju and Sujit Shrestju. You had presented very well. You have given the good knowledge to us. And lastly, I would like to thank you all for your presentation, suggestion, and feedback, and patience, and to joining in this program, in this webinar. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you all once again. Thank you very much. I think.
Thank you.
Yeah. Do you announce the closing of the ceremony? You or
that was all. You were the closing. We'll just conclude and say thank you to all the participants and the panelists for a great discussion and for continued work together.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone. And now I want to inform that this program has officially closed now. Thank you very much for your time, your suggestion, and feedback. Thank you once again very much. Bye-bye.